Hello class, in this lesson we're going to be examining the law of conservation of matter. The standard states to identify and demonstrate the law of conservation of matter. Our learning targets that we will be looking at in this lesson: I can define and explain the law of conservation of matter. I can demonstrate the law of conservation of matter through a chemical reaction. Let us first get some background information on what the law of conservation of matter is. The law of conservation of matter states that matter cannot be created or destroyed. So when matter goes through different changes, which we learned that in our previous lessons, the matter cannot be created or destroyed. Well, what does that mean? Matter may change from one form to another form, and atoms might be rearranged to form new substances, but the same number of atoms will exist before and after the change has occurred. So although matter will go through these changes, the atoms will rearrange themselves to form new molecules. The number of atoms that you started with are going to be the same number of atoms that you end with, according to the law of conservation of matter. The total mass of the matter does not change either. So you could also talk about the mass as well. This picture that you're looking at here, you've got a guy standing on a balance, and he is getting ready to mix two chemicals together. Well, when he does, we can see that there's a chemical reaction here, and in the end, your mass is still the same. So when matter is going through these different chemical changes, the number of atoms is always going to be the same before and after the reaction, and the total mass is always going to be the same before and after the reaction. We're going to look at some examples on the next few slides. Please make sure that you write down all of the examples, because these are going to show us how matter is conserved. Let's look at example 1 first. So go ahead and draw this out. You've got these silver colored atoms or grayish colored atoms here that represent atoms of element X, and they're going to be combined with atoms of element Y. This is what we have before the chemical change occurs, okay? And we learned in our previous lessons that when matter goes through chemical changes, new substances can be produced. So these two atoms are going to be combined, and then on the other side of this arrow, we're going to get a new substance. So this is after the chemical change has occurred. What question we're trying to answer here is matter being conserved in this particular scenario. Well, in order for me to figure that out, all I've got to do is count the total number of atoms I have before the chemical change occurs, and then the total number of atoms after the chemical change. So if I count all of my grayish colored atoms here, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Okay? 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. So my total number that I'm starting with is 24 atoms. Okay? So if I look on the opposite side, these atoms have now combined together, and they've actually formed something new. They've formed some molecules. Well, if I look at each molecule is made up of 3 atoms. And I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I've got 8 molecules, and each one is made of 3 atoms. Well, if I multiply 8 times 3, that is going to, of course, give me 24. So this example shows matter being conserved. So yes, matter is conserved because I started with 24 atoms and I ended with 24 atoms. So please make sure that when you answer this question, you indicate that in your answer. There were 24 atoms before the change. There are 24 atoms after the change. That's example 1. Let us now look at example 2. Okay? Example 2, same scenario here. I've got before the chemical change has occurred. This is what I'm starting with. Okay? I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? 5 atoms here. 6, 7, 8, 9. So I'm starting with 9 total atoms. Okay? That's how many atoms I have before this chemical change occurs. Now, I'm going to go through a chemical change, and these atoms are going to be rearranged, and I'm going to form something new. So let's look on the opposite side. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I have 9 atoms after the chemical change. And you can look and see that the atoms don't form the same types of molecules. But if you look, you can notice that you end up with the same type of atoms. I started over here with 4 hydrogen atoms, and over here I ended up with 4 hydrogen atoms. Those hydrogen atoms have rearranged themselves and made some new molecules, but it's still the same number of atoms. So according to this law of conservation of matter, my matter is always going to be conserved when it goes through chemical changes. So is matter conserved? Yes, matter is conserved because there are 9 atoms before the chemical change and 9 atoms after the chemical change occurred. Please make sure that you write down everything that's on this slide, including the pictures, because it shows you an illustration of how matter is conserved. Okay? Let's look at one more example. Okay? This is example 3. Okay? Now, let's see what we're starting with here. We've got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay? So we're starting with 8 atoms in this example. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So what has happened here? Is matter conserved this time? Well, hopefully you said no. No, matter is not conserved because now I'm ending up with more atoms than what I started with. And we know that scientifically this would not be possible. So this particular example does not meet the law of conservation of matter. Matter is not conserved because there are 8 atoms before the chemical change and 9 atoms after the chemical change. This is not possible according to the law of conservation of matter. So that is your third example, okay, of the law of conservation of matter. Hopefully you were able to understand this through these examples on the slides. We will look at some more examples together in class, but the key thing to remember about this particular concept is that when matter goes through chemical changes, the same amount of matter that you started with is going to be the same amount of matter that you end with according to the law of conservation of matter. Matter cannot be created or destroyed. This is the end of our video lesson on conservation of matter. Please make sure that you wrote down the notes at the beginning and that you have written down all 3 of the examples that were included here.